and the third film is about to come out in a month or so, which is about Tabatskuri, which is in the Javaheti region, so just below Bakuriani. Yeah, and there's a very rare duck that died out in the rest of the Caucasus and survived there. And one of my friends, Georgian guy, he gives his whole life to protect this duck. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Je pense, oui.
Thank you very much. Oh, no.
I'm good. Thank you. Was that a request with the milk?
I love it like that, but I can drink also without milk.
Right. The English way, isn't it?
And you have. I forgot your name. Yeah. What's your name? Ton nom? Ivan. Ok. Ivan, Saxon. Saxon, c'est facile.
Ouais.
Bah, tu es britannique.
Ouais. Ouais, peut-être. Ouais.
Mr. Cohen, this is what you look on the screen.
Wow.
It's even better when you look, your eyes, not for
Je suis impressionné.
We can check the sound. Can you hear? And can you speak?
Hello there.
Yeah. Can you hear me? I hear myself.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. You have
That's
a
the most
nice
important
voice.
thing. That's very kind. Très gentil. Are you speaking some Georgian? No.
Gamajoba, Gaumajus. I know.
Thank you, probably.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Majoba. Goodbye and.
Naquandis?
No, I don't.
No.
That's too complicated. I know how to say fear.
Fear? Interesting. I need to learn that one.
Mr. Cohen, I'm sorry. Can you a bit correct the shirt?
Hmm?
Shirt. Yes. Thank you. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Check
It looked fine to me.
If it doesn't work, you can stop.
Can I lower this? Because-
Oui.
Voilà. Comme ça, je peux vous voir. Sinon-
Ça marche. Are we live? Or?
Yes.
Yeah?
It's live, but me on the left. Better like this. Bon, c'est pas très confortable.
I thought I'd give you the...
Huh? Yeah, but
So just for you to know, we can see like this.
here? No, up. Yeah. It's okay if it or maybe section you can come closer. Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Oui. Yes.
Why did you invite me?
And Annie wanted
It's
to
her
have.
fault?
It's her fault.
Ah,
No, because
And our pleasure.
no, because we knew what you're doing with Leo Institute. The first time we heard about you was through Keta Bagashvili. Maybe you remember about her. She went through your courses. And what's interesting in what you're doing is that, as I understand, but you will go deeper into it during the podcast, is that you're working a lot on the self-esteem of people and building themselves. And this is also something that I believe is very fundamental for the country to shape. Another part is the fact that you are a foreigner doing something here. and doing some good things here. So that's why it fitted all the boxes. Voilà.
Yeah, what we do, self-esteem is a consequence of what we do.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you first do, and then you have self-esteem from what you're doing.
We're diving straight in the deep end, aren't we?
Well, can we start?
On peut y aller. Is it good there? SD card? For the sound? It's okay, we will put it from YouTube. Good there? Good there? Streaming on YouTube, you can put presentation. Saxon will start. You put the camera on Saxon, we'll do the presentation, and then we'll go deep into it immediately. Mr. Cohen, can you put maybe the microphone a little bit up like this? Yes.
Voilà.
Super.
C'est bien.
Parfait.
Good to go?
Okay, let's go.
Gama Joba Mega Bribble. Welcome back. My name is Saxon, and welcome to the latest episode of the Freedom Podcast by Sakartvelo Insight. At Sakartvelo Insight, it's our mission to explore and investigate the stories, culture, and opportunities here in Georgia. The full spectrum of Georgia, your portal to Georgia. It's my pleasure to introduce today's guest. Now, if you'll allow me just a couple of seconds, it's a fairly long list of, let's say, accomplishments. So we've got the co-founder of the Leo Institute, the creator of the Leo methodology, author of several books, and it's been a real pleasure over the last 48 hours or so for me to immerse myself in your story and do my research. I think we're going to get quite deep in this conversation, and I'm looking forward to that. I actually thought, if you don't mind, that we'd begin with a softer landing. And when I was reading your biography, I saw born in Cairo, grew up in France. By the way, stop me if I misspeak at some point. Grew up in France, studied engineering in Canada. Now based in Switzerland, but you spend quite a lot of time between Europe, the US, and the Caribbean, if I'm not mistaken. So I wanted to ask you first, where is the heart?
Well,
Et bienvenue.
Merci beaucoup. Where do I start? Because your question is simple, but deep. You see, my mother was born in Syria. I am born in Cairo, Egypt. My grandmother was born in Palestine, and her parents came from Hungary. So when we were expelled from Egypt and we went to France, Nasser confiscated all our belongings. So I was envious of these people who were born somewhere, and their parents were born in the same place, and their grandparents were born in the same place. I had the impression they had a kind of safety. Not only material safety, but the fact that it is their land and they are on their land, and
they cannot be expelled.
Yeah. So I was jealous. And then life went on, and you forget. Not always. But and I remember one day in a seminar, there is a guy who told me, the way you think is interesting. It's broader. And this reconciled me with my past. Right away I say, oh, I like it that way. I don't want a different past. Okay, so, and I will answer a question you did not ask me. You know, we all have these deep thoughts when you go to the bathroom. And I just went, and I was thinking, life is perfect. But when I was younger, I was not seeing that life was perfect. The example I just gave you, I was not seeing that I enjoyed having this wide perspective. But when I was younger, I was not seeing that. I was seeing what I was not having. Okay.
Glass half empty rather than half full, kind of.
Exactly.
At what age do you leave?
7 years old. I still remember. It was very painful.
62?
56.
56.
Yeah, the Suez Canal War.
Yes.
Yeah, it was very painful because Egypt was, for me, it was like a paradise. I was the only grandchild. My grandfather would walk with me. We stopped in front of a toy shop. I would say, I don't have this, I don't have this, I don't have that. He said, okay, we go in, he repairs. Okay. Then when we went to Paris, I would not dare say to my parents, I would like this toy because I don't want them to feel guilty to not be able
to.
Yeah.
And your family in Egypt, what were their background? What was their profession? That would be interesting to know.
So I was born in a Jewish French family. And my father was an accountant, and my mother had a factory surfacing lenses for optical frames. It was the only factory of the Middle East.
So you go from Egypt to France directly, and you grew up in Paris.
I grew up in the suburbs of Paris because Paris was expensive, and we had no money, so we were in the most cheapest place you could find, and slowly we rebuilt. In fact, at that age, I took the decision to rebuild the financial safety of the family and transmit it to my children. So I was not able to buy anything for me. I can buy for my children, but for me, no. Yeah. It changed. Not a lot, but I'm working on it.
What are some of the images or smells or textures or significant elements of the personality of life back then, whether it was in Egypt or when you'd made that transition to France?
Okay, and this will answer a question that you probably have prepared. So in Egypt, people are very warm. They are very nice. Very, very, very nice. You meet someone in the street, he will invite you for dinner in his home, and you will leave with gifts. The problem was not the Egyptian, the problem was the government and the politics. So we were expelled, we went to France, and French people are cold, very cold. Cold and separated. Even in families, there is a separation between children and parents and siblings okay, so, but then you get used to it. That's life. This is where I grew up. In the beginning it was difficult, and then you forget. You go for it. And of course, family and friends, it's not the French priority. So when I arrived in Georgia, I see these people that are friendly, they are warm. I have a participant that paid the workshop of his cousin. He sent him to Switzerland because his cousin was depressed. He paid for the air ticket, the hotel, everything. You would not see you would not see a brother doing it to his brother in France. Okay? Just because he was depressed.
And do you think this warmth is peculiar to the Middle East, Maghreb, Georgia?
Yes, and I am afraid that the civilization will make us lose it. Civilization, money, American culture, slowly. My children live in San Francisco, and I have been working with, we started the business with their mother in 1996. So I did many seminars in the US. They have money, but they don't have a life. They are really alone, even in couples. Even in couples, the husband is in competition with his wife. It's ridiculous. Or the father in competition with the son. They are really alone.
What is the root cause, in your opinion, of this? I will call it the collapse of civilization, or maybe society.
Yeah, we can say
Don't be
collapse.
too optimistic.
I love it.
May I call it the collapse? Because, in your opinion, what is the fundamental that are responsible for that?
Well, I never thought about it, so let's
experiment.
Let it flow.
Just after the war, the Second World War, psychologists tested the self-esteem of Americans, and the self-esteem was very, very low. So they wrote these books that you have to encourage your children, tell them it's a good job, you did well, and push them. Okay? And they did. And 30 years later, they measured again, and self-esteem of Americans was like this, amazing. And their anxieties were like this. The anxieties were like this because if you don't have to prove that you are the genius of the geniuses, you're happy. But if you've been told you are this amazing, you have to live up to it. So you are always comparing yourself. Am I good enough? Am I better than him? Oh, he's better than me. It's in Italian.
I actually was thinking that it, in my opinion, is necessary to explain and explore the methodology to lay the foundation for a lot of other questions and a lot of other pathways of conversation. But instead of asking you with the words, can you explore, can you explain, can you detail the methodology, I was thinking I would ask you instead to tell us how crisis is written in Chinese.
You are helping me. Yeah. It's two ideograms. I don't know how you say in English. Two. One is, I forgot the first one, but the second one.
Danger.
And the second one is opportunity. A crisis is an opportunity. Okay, but let me say in a few words an important feature of the methodology. What we share in our seminars is the fact that moment by moment we have access to two possible realities. Like now, let's apply it to now, okay? Okay. There is one reality that is fear-based. How am I looking in the podcast? Am I deep and smart? Oh, that was good. This is fear-based reality. Okay? And there is another reality that is not fear-based. Really, the way you welcomed me, it was from the heart. And it touched me directly. How can I say? So, any moment, we can either, by default, we are in the fear-based reality because we need to survive. And then we can choose a different reality.
I wanted to, if you don't mind, to follow up on this. I was very, very interested in this idea of two parallel universes. And if you don't mind, I'll just read you a short extract and I have a question for you at the end. So you probably are familiar with the comedian Jim Carrey. And he's done an excellent speech talking about love versus fear. And every decision we make is based on love or fear.
Exactly.
And he says that in this speech, he said, so many of us choose our path of fear disguised as practicality. And he talks about an example where his father chose a safe job. He could have been a great comedian, he says, but he chooses a safe path and chooses to be an accountant. And when Jim Carrey's something like 12 years old, he's let go from that safe job. And the lesson, the result that he takes away is that you can fail at what you don't want. You can fail at the path of fear, so you may as well take a chance at the path of love. I wonder what kind of advice do you provide in the seminars with regards to day by day decision making? Because I suppose the next thing that you say now, or when you arrived in this, in this studio to speak with us today, every word is a choice and following in the direction of that love or fear. You can correct me, of course, if you if you disagree.
I look at it moment by moment, rather than over a period of time. Moment by moment, I can either remain in the fear-based reality or decide to look for the other reality. It doesn't mean that I always find it, but if I don't look for it, sometimes it falls on me. For instance, I walk in the mountain. I have no specific goal or anything to reach or to prove. It falls on me. I take a baby in my hands. What's wonderful with babies, they have no expectations on us, and we have no expectations on them. So that other state falls on us.
Just being present.
Yes, absolutely. Okay? But most of the time we don't have this chance, so it takes a choice to look for this other reality. So it's really moment by moment.
I use different terminology to explain those things. I'm using a scarcity mindset, where you're trying to when you see life as a limited thing, And another way is the creation. So for instance, sometimes people they say, well, no, don't share your ideas. They will steal those ideas. Or some people, they will see businesses are as competitive. And I totally don't believe in this. And I think it creates frustration for the person, and it creates very bad feelings in the organization and everything. So instead of seeing others as competition, you can see them as potential creators for yourself. So imagine someone is building a road. Maybe you're not going to build the road, but maybe you're going to be able to use this road to go to your destination point and do another business or another thing. And I see this in so many business and inside people as well, because organizations are just group of people, and countries are a group of people together. And I think having this creation mindset is fundamental, first of all, to be happy with yourself, because you don't see others as competition, you don't see the resources as limited, but also for the overall society, because if everybody thinks this way, they always find a way to make an added value to it. So I don't use the word love or thing, but I guess it could goes to this, because creation, it basically means, it's in my view, it's my opinion, is just saying God is unlimited. What does it matter how you call it? God is unlimited. So if God is God, there's no limit to what can be accomplished. There is no limit resources. You can find an idea, you can find another. So
I wonder if you don't mind, before we go on, and I'm sure this is something that you've had to tell over and over again, but I think that it really lays that foundation that I was mentioning. Could you tell us the origins of the methodology?
Yeah, I will, but I did not answer your question. You asked me, what do I say to people, how to choose?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are two ways. You ask yourself in the fear-based reality. What you get is a reactive answer, because the fear-based reality makes you react. Okay? The non-fear-based reality will give you another answer. Okay? So if you come to one of our seminars, we will not give you the answer, but we will help you to look for it, not in the fear-based reality, because you know your life better than us, and much longer than anyone. So your answer is the right answer. The answer you ask while you are reactive, with the fear of this, the fear of that, will give you an answer. And when you can also sometimes, I started the methodology with my wife Claire, and I will say a little more about it. Very often she was suggesting, okay, ask yourself, if you're not afraid, what would you do, what would you say? And you will have an answer. It's your answer, not someone else's answer.
So that's something pragmatic that someone can apply to each decision-making process in their life.
Absolutely.
Every decision that they make today and tomorrow is, okay, if I take fear out of this, what am I left with? Right.
And you see, the difference between Leo methodology and most of other workshops and seminars, most of the theories you see, they start from the theory, and then they develop the exercises and what to do. We went the other way around. In 1982, May 1982, my wife gets sick, and she's given 3 months to live. She was told, maybe if you follow all the treatments we give you, maybe 4. Instead of a few months, she did 17 years. We did nothing according to the book. Nothing. Among them, we met Leo, who has been our mentor and who suggested experiments. So what is in the seminar is what he helped us with. Okay, I understood the theory 20 years later, and I understood it even better 30 years later. So what I explained today about the theory came much later after the exercises.
Before we get into the methodology, because there's a lot to unpack and explore there, and if you're not willing to answer this, then we can totally move on to the next question. But I was just wondering, because I'd actually listened to a recent interview that you'd done, and of course there will be naturally certain things that you'll have to answer again and again. But I was wondering, could I ask you how you and Claire met?
Okay, so it was in May 1968, there was the big student revolution in Paris. And I was studying to become an engineer. And I was among these people not happy with the system. So I have been fired from the school I was in. That's why I went to study in Canada. For the winter holidays, I came back to France, and it was just after Woodstock. I had this cousin that went to travel in India for 2 years. He got married with an Indian girl, and I knew where he was. So I went to see him to suggest we create like a Woodstock, but in Europe, with Indian singers. And that was the idea. Of course, it never happened. But when I went to see him, Claire was working for him. And this is how it started.
There was one thing that I heard you mention about how after May 1982, when you got this verdict from the doctor, the way that you lived, the relationship you and Claire had, how you would communicate changed completely. Yeah. And those months, as you said, became years. And you mentioned that you got to a place where that completely new life was a life that you really enjoyed. What were some of the characteristics of that new life? How was it different to the old life?
So I can share with you the new understanding that is really a few months late. It's okay. We have access to different level of consciousness. When we are a child, the level of consciousness is our body, just us. Okay, and everything evolves around us. If our parents fight, it's our fault. If there is something wrong, it's our fault. Okay, and when we grow up, something of that remains. We are at the center of the universe. But when you look at this universe, it's huge. What are we? less than nothing. Okay, but we go in life like if everything evolves around us. He did not look at me. He did not respect me. He did not take care of me. He did not me and me and me and me. Okay, so this is what the usual level of consciousness. Okay, and with this level of consciousness, there are all the problems connected to what I mentioned about me and myself. Okay. Your wife gets sick, she's given 3 months to live. So we were fighting and litigating on everything that I thought I was right and he was thinking he was right. And okay. She's given 3 months to live. What do you think? I'm sure you would be in my shoes. You would say, okay, I want her to have the best 3 months. So the level of consciousness shifts from me and myself to the couple. And all the problems of me, of myself, disappear. They have no reason to be. You're not concerned anymore. It's wonderful. It's wonderful. And this is what we try to do with teams. Okay, we had, probably you know Simon Sinek.
Yeah.
Okay, in his last book, he chose Leo methodology for trusting teams. If you go chapter 7, he speaks about Claire and this shell team that changed its level of consciousness. At that time, I did not know it's what they did, but now I can say. And they had the best year of their life. They came, it was 40, I have to tell you the project. It was the first time someone decided to drill in deep sea. It means you start drilling 1 kilometer below the sea level. So they had no idea of the problems they will get. Okay? So it makes sense to take the best in each field. The best in geology, the best in drilling, the best in safety. Okay? So the team was 20 people, but they worked 2 weeks, then they have 2 weeks off. Okay, so the total team is 40 people. But it's not a team. It's 40 prima donna.
Mm-hmm.
40 best of the best, and big guys. Okay?
Egos.
Can you say you don't know if you are the expert? No. So they were going to have a life that was going to be hell. And we worked together, and they decided to be there one for the other. That they choose. They choose that it's okay to say, I don't know, I may have been, maybe I have done a mistake. Can you help me with that? I'm not sure. What do you think? And when you take away the mask, life is so easier and so more fun. Okay, so this is what Simon Sinek called a trusting team. It means you trust the other one. He's not a competitor. He's not there to judge you or to put you down or to be happy if you don't succeed. Because let's face it, most of the time, the other one is a competitor. If he's doing well, it means I am less good. It's not pleasant. It's really not pleasant.
I feel like we've naturally transitioned onto the topic of leadership.
Okay.
And I also think this might be interesting for our friend Sonny here to consider as well. And I heard you say something to the effect of the ambition of each leader should be to become useless.
Bravo.
And
Bravo.
this, you said this in the interview I listened to 2 years ago. So I would assume with your wisdom and awareness of this, you must be completely useless now.
I took that goal when I started in Georgia. And I have to say that the team came beautiful. They are fantastic. Yeah. I can't say more about that. And I wrote an article 2-3 years ago in Forbes on that subject. You see, there is a concept in Leo methodology about our unconscious goal. Each human being has an unconscious goal. It's a decision taken in a young age, sometimes around the teenage years. It's a little bit like a fantasy, the superhero that I would love to prove that I am. I am a genius, I am whatever. Mother Teresa, or we have Margaret Thatcher, we have Mary Poppins, we have Batman, we have all of them. So the goal of the unconscious goal, in fact, is to be loved. And we all need to be loved. For a reason that I can explain, but we all need to be loved. So everyone has this goal to be indispensable. Because if I am dispensable, you can do without me. You can just, okay? So let's say you are a leader, a manager, or you have a team. Are you going to grow your team and become useless? Unconsciously, it's like suicide. Unconsciously. Once you bring it to consciousness, you can have a choice. But unconsciously, no. So, yeah.
I suppose if we follow that logic, it would really then be most challenging if a leader does reach that position. It would be most challenging for them not to handle all of their responsibilities because they're now useless. Their challenge is in fact to handle their ego of this subconscious, conscious battle of uselessness. How is that something that you've managed now? Because obviously there's quite a sizable team at the Leo Institute.
You mean for me?
Yeah, how have you processed this internally?
If I die tomorrow, it will continue. This is clear. I have
Is that a good end goal, do you think, for a leader?
For me, it was important because it was a way to give back what I was given. I have not invented anything. My only merit, I don't know how you say in English.
Yeah, merit.
Is to have experienced what Leo was suggesting or what other people suggested. Okay? But that's all. What worked for me, I kept. And if I was not helped, I would not be where I am today. So I believe you cannot stop the energy. If you want to be happy, you cannot. So it needs to flow, and it's part of the flow that someone else do it his way or her way. Because they cannot do it the way I do it. Everyone is different. Okay. So if I die tomorrow, Law Institute will continue, and this gives me a kind of peace that I love.
This allows you to go to the toilet and be at complete one with the world, right? I just wanted to ask one question, just before we move forward, just about Leo. This was something that I was becoming immensely curious about.
Yeah.
What happened to Leo? What was his story, and did he live long enough to see what you've created with his name and with his lessons?
I lost contact in 1999. And we stopped meeting, and the last years from 1994 to 1999, we had very little contact anyway. I did not feel the need, he did not feel the need.
So he was on your path and he left you with something.
Yeah.
How long did it took you to put Leo Institute on autopilot? Because I assume that at the beginning you were actually indispensable, because you need to put things in shape, and you need to put your philosophy into the thing. But after what time were you able to get the business running without you?
First, I want to thank you for your questions, because you helped me understand something. It's interesting. Okay. So, the particularity of Leo Coach or Leo Facilitator is we expect the coach to not be a teacher. Okay? So, if let's say I was dependent on alcohol and I stopped alcohol, then I can support you on that subject. If I didn't, I cannot. If I had anger and I was able to not be at the mercy of anger anymore, I can support you with that subject. Otherwise, I tell you, I am naturally calm. Sorry, I am not the right coach.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you understand that to become a coach takes time. In the coaches we have in the US, it took 15 years to train them. 15 years. Myself with Leo, it took a long time. I still remember the difficulties. Okay. And a few years ago, I have some Georgian friends that came to visit me in France for summer. Mediterranean, you know, I love Mediterranean. And both of them did not know how to swim. And I have a method. I can teach swimming in 20 minutes. They said, impossible. I said, you bet. Each time I win my bet, so I love it. And both learned in a few minutes. I said 20, but after 10 minutes they were swimming.
Can you share the secret?
No, but no, but I can do it. We go somewhere and I help you with it, this anytime. And one of the two told me, if you do it for swimming, you have to find a way for becoming a coach. See, that makes sense. And as I was also ready to let go of being indispensable in that field, we took the commitment, and today we have a program that takes 18 months. In 18 months, we have fantastic coach today. We have amazing Georgian coach, and we started going abroad from Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
We went in November 2021 in Finland, in May 2022 again in Finland, and we will probably go again in April.
Before Leo Institute, did you had any other business experience?
Okay, so when we started with Claire, it was not possible for us to ask for money for what we do. I was in the mind frame, if I help you, I cannot, after helping you, say, okay, it's $5. So for 20 years, we were volunteers. So I had to make a living. And I had a business. I was first manufacturing frames and then lenses.
Mm.
Yeah, optics.
So that was following in the family business.
Yeah, exactly.
In France.
Yeah. And when I was able to work on my problems around money, and today I have no problem to charge. And I have no problem to not charge. Okay? I just did a seminar in India. It was a total gift. And when we go to Finland, they pay very well.
Very interesting. There's something that for me is almost the elephant in the room in terms of my interest. The subject of joy and living a joyful life. Quite simply, to begin in this this selection of questions, how does one live a joyful life?
I see that many people mistake joy and pleasure. Pleasure is something you organize. You invite your girlfriend, you buy a nice bottle of wine. It's something you organize. You have a project, difficult project, and it works. Fantastic. You are very satisfied. You get your PhD after hard work. Fantastic. But joy is a different emotion. Joy, you cannot organize. Okay. But you can organize your life to not lose it. You see, it took me some time. I owe this clarity to Ramana Maharshi. He's an Indian thinker, and in my point of view, probably the biggest, the deepest Indian thinker of the 20th century. And, oh, by the way, I will tell you after the live. Ramana Maharshi helps make the distinction between our true self and our mind. Who is talking? Is it your mind or your true self? When it is your mind, you cannot have joy. You can have satisfaction, you can be right, you can, it's rational, whatever. Okay. To experience joy, there is nothing to do. But to stop running away from it. When I try to prove that I am smart, I run away from joy. When I try to protect myself, I run away from joy. When I hide behind a mask, I run away from joy. And then I don't understand why people don't understand me, but I am hidden behind my mask. They don't have access to me. Okay.
Is this something that you think perhaps children do best?
Absolutely.
Because there's less
And then they grow
disconnection
up.
between the mind and...
And then they grow up and they lose it.
Right.
You take a 2-3-year-old, you see a 2-3-year-old take a piece of food and okay?
Yeah.
So we are joy. We are love. It's our nature. You see, when I read this from Ramana Maharshi, I understood the exercises Leo was making us do. Because he gave us, Ramana Maharshi gave us the theory. Okay. We are joy. We just need to stop trying to prove that we are something else, that what we are.
How charming. If you don't mind, I'll read you something quickly.
Please.
So I wouldn't describe myself as what we would call a royalist in the UK. But I am about to quote the Queen. And there's a reason for this. I was... So on Christmas Day, the Queen, or now King, does a speech. And, it's a tradition to have that speech on. And of course, for my whole life, that was the Queen doing that speech. And I used to like to listen to see what does she do with that level of responsibility and what topics does she explore. And the last Christmas speech she did, obviously watching this with my family, we didn't know it would be the last one, of course. She said something, and I turned to my family, who were not listening at all. And I was like, come on, did you hear that? That was quite powerful. So there's a short extract. So she said, I'm sure someone somewhere today will remark that Christmas is a time for children. It's an engaging truth, but only half the story. Perhaps it's truer to say that Christmas can speak to the child within us all. Adults, when weighed down with worries, sometimes fail to see the joy in the simple things, where children do not. And I wanted to test my philosophy on joy with you, which is just that my philosophy is centered around simplicity. And if you can find joy in the simplest of things, to use your analogy of the piece, using the facilities, or just when you sit with the coffee, or you have a laugh with a friend, if you can really find immense electricity from those moments, then you're almost indestructible. You're not waiting for those big accomplishments or things.
Accomplishments give satisfaction,
Right.
not joy.
Right.
Can I coach you on that subject?
I wanted
Right
to
now?
ask you to do an exercise. That would be
Okay.
perfect.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I have a question. Is it important to you to do a good interview?
Yes.
Please let go. Accept to say stupid things or whatever, and let go of the judgment of all the people that are looking at us. We are human beings, fallible human beings, nothing else.
What are the things that bring you joy?
The things cannot bring me joy.
Yes, of course. Allow me to correct my question. Where do you observe yourself being most thankful?
Many places. Well, I told you that just before we start, I went to the bathroom. I believe in pee therapy. And I was peeing, and I was so happy to be here.
Why?
I think the way you welcomed me was really from the heart. It was really warm. Thank you. Really, thank you.
Our pleasure, I think.
Yeah.
Our pleasure.
Mr. Cohen, do you believe in God?
I don't know. Okay. I can be transparent. I have nothing to hide on that subject. Another subject, maybe I have things to hide, but not on that one. Okay. When I was a teenager, I was very religious. I followed the Jewish religion that is very complicated, relayed by the book. But I was tormented by, does God exist? Give me a sign. I want to know. And I was jealous of these Jewish people who were in Egypt as slaves because they saw these big signs that God sent them. He sent them and not me. So I was really sad. And my mind was, one day, yes, no, no. And one day I had a discussion with myself. And the discussion was like this. I needed to really resolve my problem. So I asked myself, okay, if you believe in God, would you kill? I know. He sees me, he will punish me. Maybe not in this life, but after, boom, no. Would you steal? No, because he sees everything, so no, I would not steal. Okay, so now, let's say God does not exist. Would you kill? No, that was clear. Would you steal? If I don't get caught, why not? Yeah, I would. Then I think, and I'd say to myself, you would know. You would not be at peace with yourself. Is this the quality of life you want? And I came to the conclusion, no. So if God exists, I would not kill, I would not steal. If he does not exist, I would not kill, I would not steal.
So it's the difference between having your morality within or having it imposed externally. But
So
if the result is the same.
So if the result is the same, if he exists or not, it became his worry, not mine. I stopped, the battle inside myself stopped. And I looked inside myself with what I feel aligned, deeply aligned, and that gives myself a quality of life.
I'm really curious to hear what your response is to that, actually.
My response is I've listened. I don't have any.
This idea of internalizing and externalizing morality is quite an interesting concept, I think.
Yes. Then there is the question, why wouldn't we steal, or why wouldn't we kill if God doesn't exist? But it's all based on Judeo-Christian years of, it was boiled down into our blood, so maybe internally we have adopted those concepts without saying, okay, this is from the Torah or this is from, I don't know. Me, I believe in God. But it's interesting, this perspective of asking yourself, would you do this even if God doesn't exist?
And I did not stop following the Jewish religion. For 3 years after that, I kept all by the book. I would put the tefillin every morning. But God existing or not was not was not my problem. I was interested by the journey.
And also during your journey, you had to go into different aspect of spirituality. You went to India, which is...
I went to India 50
long
years later.
Long after this. After this.
But I think we are stumbling upon an interesting connection there between spirituality and your methodology. How does the methodology adapt or change in any way dependent on the culture in which you are working with that?
Yes. And before I want to answer a question that you did not ask. You see, when Claire was a hidden child during the war. She was Jewish. She was hidden by a Christian family that saved her. And it was the Marxist that helped her learn to write and read and write and count. Okay. So she was very grateful to these people. It was, at that time, you had some communist people. It was really from their heart. They wanted to help one another from their heart. Okay. So it was important for us when we started this work that we could have in the same room a communist, a capitalist, an atheist, a believer, and we are interested by what all have in common, not by what they disagree. And it's possible. So this is what we did. So still, it's important for me, for us.
Unless you want to follow up on that, I'm going to take us in a different direction. In 2021, you were talking about trends and how a trend you were observing at that time was people being unsatisfied at work.
Yes.
And I think you were discussing 75% of people being unhappy at work, and that was something that you were paying a lot of thought to there.
Yeah.
Now, if there's something that you want to add on that subject now that maybe has changed in your thinking in the last 2 years, you're welcome to do so. But then my follow-up question would be, what's the trend you're observing now?
Good question.
Okay. Really, it's a subject that is dear to my heart because it can so easily be different. You see, total statistics, the last ones Gallup did, was 80% of people don't like their work. And 75% of this 80% don't like their work because of their direct boss, not because of their work, but because of the relationship with their direct boss. So if we connect with the previous questions you asked about being indispensable, if the boss has to show you that he's smarter than you, that he knows better than you, that your ideas are useless, that you are dumb, can you enjoy your work? It's impossible. Okay? If you don't enjoy your work, can the company expect 100% of your capabilities? No. Okay? So, both lose. It's a lose-lose. It's a lose-lose.
And you just said that it was so easy to not be the
Yes,
case.
because, well, we are starting tomorrow a business seminar. The first thing we shall do in the morning is to take stock about their experience. They all had a boss for whom they enjoyed working. Maybe it was in sports and a coach of volleyball or rugby, and maybe it was in a company, okay? And we put the characteristics. And then we take a boss they did not like to work for, and they would go at work just because of the paycheck, because they needed to pay their rent, okay? And we put the characteristics. And then we shall suggest that they reflect at what part they have of this one, at what part they have of the other one. And people are smart. It's not that they come in the morning and they want to bother their subordinates. It's this unconscious goal to have value and to prove our value. This is what is in the way. Okay? Because everybody likes to be with someone smart. But when I need to show you that I am smarter than you, what I am telling you is you're a piece of shit. I'm not saying it like that, but it's what. So you cannot enjoy your work. So it is so easy to explain the mechanism of relationship between the boss and it's possible to take a decision. It's really easy to create something different. Really easy.
It's easy if the people do not want to be indispensable. So what comes in the way of willing to be indispensable?
This is what we do during the 6 days.
Mm-hmm.
We need to bring to the surface many of the childhood wounds we had. I was not listened, I need to be listened. I was not considered, I need to be considered. I was not this, I have. Okay, so how can I? Yeah, I think.
Before we come to maybe a trend that you've observed in, the trend of this year, let's say, I just want to quickly ask.
No, let me finish.
Yeah?
Yeah. There is something else. You see, 30, 40 years ago, our parents, grandparents were happy to just have a job. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I go back to what I said before. Parents read the books, How to Raise Your Children, and they say, you're good. Okay? You're good. Okay. So the self-esteem is high, but also the skills are much higher. So if you manage these people like you have been managed by those who had a self-esteem like this, doesn't work. They have much more potential than their parents and grandparents, but you cannot manage them like you have been managed yourself. You have to totally be different. You have to give them responsibilities. You have to give them the way to use their talent. Otherwise, they will not be happy. You know how many people just quit their job and they are not in the statistics in the US? In the US.
How many people who quit their job?
Yeah, and they are not in the statistics of unemployment. They just quit. 7 million. 7 million just quit because of that. They have the impression that if they go with a boss like their grandfather, their soul will die. They cannot.
You described people being princes and princesses
Exactly.
nowadays.
And they are. So you have to consider them like that, and you have to give them responsibilities. They would love it.
Mhm.
And you will enjoy because they will do the job better than you.
Right. That connects to what my next question was going to be, which is, you as a manager, as a leader, is there a time in recent memory that you failed that really stands out? And perhaps there was some learning or reflections on your own methodologies in that failure, perhaps? Or is this maybe one of the things that you're not willing to share?
No. I'm just trying to remember, but I'm sure there are many. But I think you should ask my team. They will not be afraid to tell you. No.
Okay. Well, if something pops up.
Yeah.
So how about for trends? Is there something that, and maybe the word trend is even misleading, but something in the last year, let's say, that has really consumed your thoughts? Some idea or subject that you think has a lot of importance that maybe is not getting talked about?
I would like to talk again about the level of consciousness. Okay, I spoke about my couple. I went from two people living one beside the other to a couple consciousness, and I loved it.
When two become one.
Exactly. I loved it. At work, it's the same. You see, as we are with this individual consciousness, in the team, my interests are more important than the interest of the team. I need to be right. I need to push my ideas. If you have better ideas than me, I don't feel good, blah, 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 okay. Then the team has the same mentality. It means the interest of the team is more important than the interest of the company. I protect my teammates, I protect my subordinates. Okay. We call this silo mentality. And we see this everywhere. And it does not make people happy. So it's lose-lose. In relationship, in money, we believe there is win and lose in material things. But in relationships, we don't believe. It is either win-win or lose-lose. I don't know if I answered the question. I went where I...
Yeah. So this is something that's been on your mind
Yes.
a lot recently, right?
Yes, because it is spoiling our life. It is really spoiling our relationships.
And do you see the level of consciousness overall of world population going up or going down?
Civilization is bringing it down.
And
It's terrible. It brings the material comfort up and the separation up. People feel separate, alone.
The distance.
Alone. You go to the primitive tribes in Amazonia that never saw a white guy. They live like brothers and sisters.
And can we have a modern society with all technological and material comfort and still have those strong bonds? Because it seems that there is a correlation between increased level of materiality and discontentment. How do you say it? Discontentment and frustration, depressions, and things like that. And you look at in poorer material country, and you see more of this fraternity. You see more of these warmth. So, isn't it something that just come with material society, or can we have the spiritual, the something outside of the material realm? And
The best of both worlds.
Yes, is it? Do you think it's possible, or because to me it seems that the level of comfort that we have right now in our society is really a reason why we complain. It seems that if we don't have problems, we want to create problems. You know, like in the USA, for instance, I see the USA, the richest country in the history of the world, and I think the society is totally crazy, and in some part of the USA, but totally crazy. And I don't know if that comes with the material. What's your opinion on this, Mr. Cohen?
I don't know. What I see is this, what we call civilization is like it's killing the human dimension. The team suggested that I write a business book, and I started. And my intention is to speak about the human dimension, because it's not considered enough. I don't believe that it goes against the material comfort we have. It's like a car. It's the way you drive it. If I have a Ferrari and I don't know how to drive.
In the spirit of what you said earlier about when you were young, seeing the toys, right? And now I think it might be nice, instead of seeing what we don't have and seeing the negatives, could we wrap that subject up by seeing what we do have? And what, if we flip this topic on its head, what is there to be optimistic about at this moment in time?
Okay. Maybe you will not like what I am going to say. I believe that looking for what we have in life maintain looking at what we don't have in life.
Mm-hmm.
It's, for me, the same side, both sides of the same coin.
Don't look at the coin at all.
Exactly. And if you look at it, it's really fear-based. What
Right.
I have, or what I want, or what I don't have, or what I don't want, or what I numb, it's a whole... Okay. There is another reality that you made me experience when you greeted me. I did not need Prada shoes at that moment, this precise moment. That's why I like to bring the subject to the moment. Okay? I'm sure in the interview there were moments in which it was important for you to be a good interviewer, and other moments you forgot that you were the interviewer. And when you forget, this is where you really live, outside
The flow
of the
state.
fear.
Right.
Flow state, exactly. I like the comparison because, in fact, the fear stops the flow. The flow is always trying to to flow.
And we're getting in the way.
And the fear stops it. Being reasonable stops it. Asking myself what is the right choice stops it, because it's a fear-based question.
I have a couple of questions that probably will wrap us up. I wonder, this might be a little bit playful, but if you were today starting afresh, a young lad, Sami Cohen, starting again in 2023.
With the experience I have today, you mean?
Let's explore both.
Okay.
Both parallel universes, if you like. What direction would you go in?
I don't understand the question.
How would you envisage your path if you were starting again?
Your path.
Yeah.
Your path or your past?
Path.
I don't know.
No.
I can invent something nice, but
But that's not something that you've not daydreamed about before. You know, sometimes people say, it's a nice example in my mind, at least, is was having a conversation with my grandparents, with my sister, who at the time was contemplating her path and what she wanted to do with her life. And it was very existential. And my grandfather, after 1 hour or something, turned to her. He was quiet the whole time, turned to her and said, I'm whatever age he was, I think he would have been 79 or something like that. And I don't know what I want to do with my life yet. And yeah, I suppose it's after that moment, I think that question was floating around my mind. Someone in my granddad's position, if he was starting again, what would that look like? So, but if it's not something, yeah.
Okay.
Dis-moi.
Avec plaisir. It's not a question I have, but I have things to share on that subject. There is a woman called, her family name is Ware. I forgot her given name. She was a nurse in intensive care, and she interviewed people a few days before they die. And they all have the same regrets. And the regret that all had was, I regret that I spent too much time trying to please what was expecting from me rather than live my life. This 98% had it. And the second one, just after, less people, but almost all, I wished I knew that happiness is a commitment. I wished I knew that I could have been happy if I had decided to. It's not the exact words, but it's...
In substance, yes.
Yeah, in substance. And before we finish, I have a question that I would like. So you tell me when it's appropriate.
Yes, it's appropriate, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a book in Georgian, which is Life Beyond Fear. And I have a book in English, which is my second book that has not been translated yet, which is Conversations with Leo. And we are asking ourselves to have an evening and talk about it Saturday, April 8th, but we are not sure that there are enough people interested. So if your audience can write you that they would be interested, if there are enough people, we would do it in Sheraton, Saturday 8th at 8 o'clock in the evening. If not, we love you guys.
Let it be.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, sure. We will share this and ask the audience on Instagram maybe about this question of Mr. Cohen. Saturday, 8 April.
Yeah.
At 8 p.m. in Sheraton.
In Sheraton.
And are we invited?
And I have another invitation as soon as we finished.
I have one final question. I'm hesitant about how to word it, but perhaps you can do with it what you will,
Okay.
if you take the sentiment. But quite simply, how would you like to be remembered?
Okay. Phrased like this, I don't know how to answer. What is important for me is to not stop the flow of what Leo gave me. So it's my job to share, and I wish it continues. And if it does not, it does not. But I don't look at it the way you phrase it. That's why I rephrase it.
I expected as such.
This being said, me too, I have a question. I would love to know what was important for you is there something that was important for you in the discussion, or a comment, or whatever?
By the way, if you don't mind, I'll just
Please.
quickly say that my last question is not reflective of age
Yeah.
or where someone is in life. In some interviews I've done in one of my recent films, there's people of my age, and I think it's interesting to explore that kind of topic. For me, what we've discussed today, and if we encounter each other in the future, which I would hope, the enigma of joy and the simplicity of it, I think, is a ball of thought that I'm really attached to, and would very much like to soak up more wisdom on this topic. So I would say for me,
I would love to offer you my book, Conversations with Leo.
that would be amazing. I'd love to read that. Thank you.
It's really the subject.
How about for you?
Very good, very interesting for me, the perspective and the way you phrased it. But also, I feel you are someone very poised, very relaxed, and maybe it's not the appropriate word, but we feel good talking with you, and
It's like catching up with an old friend, even though I met you 5 minutes before we started speaking.
and wisdom from life, from the experiences, is very interesting to feel it, not just to listen to it, but to feel it.
I actually think...
From the way you explain, from the way you reply. So I get this. This is not what you said that I will remember, but the way you maybe not said it.
The manner.
Yeah, and so this is for me is very. I will.
I actually think the two words that you used there was a little bit of hesitation, but poised and relaxed is very interesting, because I totally agree. It's relaxed in manner, but poised in thought. That's like a combination that I have in my mind now, which is really quite a pleasure to interact with. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cohen.
Thank you.
Thank you. So thank you the audience as well, and we will also share the message of Mr. Cohen and of Leo Institute. Again, for people who do not know Sakartvelo Insight, our goal is to showcase the full spectrum of Georgia, and showcasing the opportunities that exist here, the people who are building the country brick by brick, step by step. And I think Leo Institute is doing a very, very good job and a great part in this, of raising maybe the level of awareness. And Sakartvelo Insight also has this ambition in another way to raise also self-esteem of young Georgians, to show that there is plenty of things to be doing here, and they don't necessarily have to export themselves abroad forever, and plenty of things.
I have something to say.
Sure.
I know both sides. I have lived in France, Switzerland, often in Italy, and I have seen here. And if I had to choose where to live today, if I was 20 years old or 30 years old, I would not choose France. I would not choose Italy. I would not choose any country in Europe. I would certainly not choose the US. I would choose here.
Absolutely, 100% agree. And actually, this was why I'm here. So it's good that you comforted this idea.
He is preaching with the choir, as we say, saying this sentiment to you.
Yeah. So thank you everybody for watching this episode, and voila.
Voilà, c'est ça.
Great.
Sonny, where are you